Oh, thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about on my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, all your podcasting apps and platforms you can find me on. The podcast I released today had Kenny Simmons, scouting expert for 247 Sports. Me and Kenny recapped the divisional round of NFL football. We went through all the games, talked about NFC and AFC championship game, a little tidbit of previews. So definitely check that out. And like I said, it's on iTunes, Spotify, all your podcasting apps and platforms. Also, just let everybody know, for the Wednesday podcast, still in the works, but going to have a special guest who covers the NBA on to kind of drop some knowledge on the James Harden Brooklyn Nets situation. By the way, the Lakers and the Nets are going to be playing tonight, so that should be fun. So let's start with this. The Buffalo Bills. First time since 1993. In 1993, I wasn't even alive. I wasn't even a twinkle in my parents' eyes. Are going to the AFC Championship game. And I would rather have it against no other team than the Kansas City Chiefs, the best team in football, a team that was 14-2, that had the best record all year long. And I know Patrick Mahomes' concussion issue, it's kind of, if he's going to play right, he has to pass all the protocols, but I want Patrick Mahomes. I want to see Pat. I want to see Tyreek Hill. I want to see Sammy Watkins come back to Buffalo. I want to see McCole Hartman. I want to see Andy Reid. I want the Chiefs, because I think the Bills can take them. Really proud of how the Bills played against the Baltimore Ravens. Found a way to stop the run. Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh and what they do with that running game is special. And we were able to limit that. They rushed for 230 yards against the Titans. Against the Bills, they rushed for about 150, I think. So a big difference. Also, on the Lamar Jackson front, I think what this is going to have to say about Lamar. Lamar's not a good thrower of the football. In 2 playoff games this year. There's 2 playoff games. Guess how many touchdowns he had? Say 0. That is not good. When you're an MVP of the league, when you are a quarterback that has the potential or should have the potential to be a Super Bowl MVP, to be a Super Bowl champion quarterback, you have to be able to throw the football. He was mediocre passing the football all year during the postseason, and that is not a good sign for Baltimore. Not a good sign at all. Was not able to score a passing touchdown against the Bills. I know the Bills have a great secondary with guys like Hyde, Poyer, Tre'Davious White, but if Lamar, you're that guy, you got to throw a passing touchdown. You have to. It's the only way you can win in this league. Now I want to go to the next game. I want to talk about the Browns and the Chiefs. My God, Andy Reid. 4th and 1 in the shotgun. Most coaches, you know what they do when they have their backup quarterback in? 17-22 in the AFC title game, in a playoff game, on 4th and 1. Hell, in a regular season game. They run it. Or do you know what they do? They punt the ball. Or they just try to draw the team off sides. Andy Reid said, F all that. Throwing it to Tyreek Hill. We're going to make the play. Seal the deal right there. We're not giving the ball back to Baker Mayfield and tow. Ballsy play call. Crazy play call. It maybe not have been the most rational. But you got to have the cojones to make plays like that. You know, part of it is you put your players in the best position to succeed and you trust them. And you might say, why have Chad Henne do that, right? Obviously, Andy Reid has seen stuff in practice that makes him trust Chad Henne to be ready for this moment. Obviously, he trusts Tyreek Hill. He trusts these guys to be ready to be able to make plays without a Patrick Mahomes. And they showed it, and wow, was that special. I think Mahomes is going to play against the Bills, by the way, as well. But congrats to Chad Henne, Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs, 3rd straight AFC Championship game appearance. Kind of some mini New England Patriots stuff, what they are doing. Also, the Browns, great year. A lot to build on with Kevin Stefanski and Baker. This close to getting it done. Because in a theoretical universe, guys, in a theoretical universe, if the Browns get the ball back, they might win that game. If they get that stop on 4th and 1 at the 50, it's like midfield. The Browns could be going to the AFC Championship game and going to Buffalo. So, I will say this. The Browns right there. I know Mahomes was hurt. Mahomes was not in the game, but the Browns are right there. Kansas City is the standard, and they showed that they can kind of compete with that standard a little bit, right? And all you ask is when you're on the road in a playoff game in Arrowhead is to be in the game. When the game is on the line and the chips and the money are down, and Cleveland was in there. So they're players that need to get more experience. And Myles Garrett needs more experience. And Baker Mayfield needs more experience. Denzel Ward needs more experience. This is their guys for these guys. This is their first playoff appearance. And Nick Chubb. Like, they're getting used to winning on the NFL. So I think this was great for the Cleveland Browns and their program. Now I want to go to this. Tampa Bay versus the New Orleans Saints. First, I want to say it looks like Drew Brees is going to retire. Drew Brees has had a great Hall of Fame career. To me, he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks to ever play the game. What him and Sean Payton have done, putting up all this high-flying offense in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans for the last decade has been something special to watch. And Drew Brees has been a pleasure because he's been a guy that's always done it the right way. You don't hear a lot of crazy stuff about him. Consummate man, consummate professional. He's always up for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Drew Brees is just a stand-up guy. But I will say this, he's not good anymore. I've been saying this all year. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions in the playoffs. Not going to cut it for your starting QB. Can't throw it down the field. He had like 3.6 yards per pass. Drew just isn't that guy. To me, Drew is maybe top 20 in the NFL for looking at quarterbacks. Drew's not a great quarterback anymore, and he's old. He's 42. You're not supposed to be elite at 42. I mean, Tom Brady is, but, that's Tom Brady. And let's get to this guy, Tom Brady. His 14th championship game appearance. Think about that. His 14th. Over half his career, he's been in a championship game. He's made it to the Final Four. That is special. Brady is one of the greatest winners, one of the clutchest athletes, with some of the best intangibles ever. Ever. And it's not even close. He's outlasted Ben Roethlisberger. He's outlasted Drew Brees. He's outlasted Phillip Rivers. He's outlasted Peyton Manning. He's outlasted Eli Manning. What makes Brady the GOAT is not the fact that at his peak, he was better than all these guys. Maybe his peak wasn't as good as Aaron Rodgers. Maybe his peak's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. Maybe his peak wasn't as good as Peyton or maybe Brees or some of these guys. But you know what makes him the GOAT? He's still so great at his age. That's what makes Tom Brady special and unique from any quarterback in NFL history, besides the winning and the clutchiness. Now let's go to this. Packers just dismantle the Los Angeles Rams in fashion, in great fashion. Like, I was shocked. I was shocked what they did to the Rams. The Rams have the best defense in the NFL, one of the best front sevens in the NFL, and Green Bay just went right down the field every single time. Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, they have guys like Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams. This offense is in a perfect sync right now. Green Bay is going to be tough. And I compare them to the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of how they dominate on offense. And how they do it is this. Like, it's not as spectacular as what Kansas City does with all these long vertical routes, but it's dominating. It's still just as dominating as the Chiefs, just in a little bit, less spectacular fashion. I kind of compare it to a basketball player. It's like you have the one guy who shows up to the YMCA who can hit a bunch of 360 dunks and score 20. You're like, wow, this dude's amazing. You have the one guy who's like 40 years old, has a little bit of a belly, and he just hits jump shots in your face. A little bit of a different way. Both can score 20, but, and one's a little less spectacular, but both can be just as effective. And the Rams, Sean McVay during his press conference said every position is going to be evaluated, and he said even Jared Goff. I'm not the biggest fan of Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is a better version of Alex Smith. Take that for what you will. I think because of their cap hit, they won't be able to get rid of him for this year. But I think look out to see if they try to do some things with Jared Goff. Because to me, Jared Goff is a top 15-ish quarterback in the NFL, not a top 10, and he's paid like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So the math there does not add up. So head coaching hires, Saints. Tight end coach Dan Campbell is reportedly expected to be the head coach of the Detroit Lions. They say he's not a schemer. He's not a systematically great guy, but what makes him great is he's a CEO. He's a leader. Players want to play for him. So I think that's what you need. An organization with Detroit that's been kind of a clown show, mediocre, abominable, every bad word you can say in the book, dysfunctional. You need somebody. You need an adult in the room that can galvanize the troops and be a leader of men. And I think that's the most important position for a head coach, to set the program, to set the agenda, to set the standard of the organization. And next, we're going to have Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley, who's going to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, first, I want to give a clap of the hands and a round of applause for Brandon Staley. You might ask why. He is a John Carroll alum. So always got to give a shout out to those John Carroll guys. Also, the general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers, Tom Telesco, is a John Carroll alum as well at my school, at my college, at my alma mater. So you kind of see a little bit of a nepotism working right there. Two alums, the one hires the other. That's kind of how it works. Did a really good job coaching the Rams. The Rams were one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. I would have preferred to see the Chargers get an offensive mind like a Bieniemy. Maybe bring in a Doug Peterson, right? He got fired by the Philadelphia Eagles. There was Joe Brady. There were a lot of guys you could have got because you have Justin Herbert. But, if you think Brandon Staley's the guy, then hire him. Now, next, we have this. So, Deshaun Watson. What's going on with Deshaun Watson is very crazy. I've never seen a franchise quarterback this close to being on the outs with an organization. And this just tells you where it's gone with the Houston Texans. Like, oh my gosh. Deshaun Watson, he's not returning their phone calls. He's ghosting them. You know what? When a girl ghosts you, that doesn't mean she wants you anymore. That means it's done. Like I said with James Harden, when they say they're done, they're done. It's not well, let me think about it. Oh, no. When somebody says they're done, they're done. They're not messing with you no more. They don't feel you no more. That's what it seems with Deshaun Watson. It seems like he's done with the incompetence. It seems like he's done. You saw after their last game, J.J. Watt put his hands around his shoulder and said, I'm sorry, number 4, we should have got you more than 4 or 5 wins this year. Deshaun Watson is upset. He's fed up. The fans in Houston are fed up. They were organizing protests, and Deshaun Watson had to say on Twitter, hey, for health and safety with the COVID, don't protest. Don't go out on the streets. So Deshaun definitely feels it. The fans definitely feel it. Houston Texans, they're in a bad situation. Reportedly, they are the least desirable job in the NFL. Think about it. An NFL head coaching job is not desirable among coaches. That's never a good thing. Houston has dropped the ball. Now, the NFL Combine, which is usually in Indianapolis, it's going to be different this year. It's going to be regional. So they're going to have all these regional different combine workouts. And also they're going to be doing interviews on Zoom instead of in person. I think that's going to be very interesting. And speaking of the draft, Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State, has just declared, congratulations, Justin Fields. I think he's going to be the second quarterback taken in the draft. First will be Trevor Lawrence. I think we could see Justin Fields in a position where he is a New York Jet. So New York Jets fans, get ready for Justin Fields, because you're going to have a really good quarterback. I was just looking at some scouting, a scouting notebook by somebody on Bleacher Report. I'm forgetting his name, but I don't want to steal his information, but basically what he said, he compared Justin Fields, ironically, to a guy I was just talking about in Deshaun Watson. Bigger, faster, stronger version of Deshaun Watson is what he called Justin Fields. I've also heard people call Justin Fields kind of like a Cam Newton, very physically athletic player. He's kind of what the NFL is going towards more athletic quarterbacks that can both run and pass at a super efficient level. So Justin Fields is going to be really good in this league. Now, we have this. James Harden, as you all know, was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. The Rockets GM, though, kind of explained why he was traded for just a bunch of picks, and they got Oladipo back, and he wasn't traded to like a Philadelphia 76ers where you can get a Ben Simmons. And that reason was because, they wanted flexibility with their picks, and that's kind of what he stated. I agree with this. I personally agree with this. Get all the picks and assets you can, because you can use those picks and you can use those assets later, right? I don't know why in professional sports all these GMs and organizations are so gung-ho about picks when these guys haven't played a down in these leagues yet, haven't played a game in these leagues yet, haven't made a basket in these leagues yet, haven't hit a hit in these leagues yet, but they are. For some reason, they are infatuated with picks. It's like when you have a child and you want to protect your child and nurture them. It's like, protect our kid, protect little Johnny, protect little Johnny. That's all these organizations care about is picks. So if all these organizations care about is picks, then you add up the more picks and they can give you ammo to maybe make a trade for another player. Also, they have all these pick swaps, so they control all of Brooklyn's draft capital for the next 7 years, which is crazy. Super insane. So I think this is going to work out very well for the Houston Rockets. And also, I don't think Brooklyn's going to be good 4 years from now. Do you? I think this Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant thing's here for a short time and a fun time, not a long time, folks. So definitely in the Houston Rockets' favor. And lastly, Kyrie Irving will not play versus the Bucks and will miss his 7th straight game. They said he's still getting his conditioning up right. For those of you who don't know, Kyrie's been kind of going AWOL lately. He will be back. They said he's working on his conditioning. He also, and I do want to give a congrats to Kyrie because people have been criticizing him, he bought a house for George Floyd's family, which I thought was pretty cool. But obviously it still seems that maybe basketball isn't the most important thing to Kyrie. It's still crazy that all this happened where he wasn't playing in the games where he's a professional basketball player making $40-something million a year, and he should be, newsflash, and maybe not the most controversial opinion ever, playing the games. But it looks like Kyrie is getting closer and closer to returning, and that's great for the NBA and its fans. Now, everybody, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl Lane. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just type in Daryl Lane, and you can get little clips and bits from the podcast that I do 3 days a week. And also, I upload this show to my YouTube channel as well. Have a great day, and God bless everybody.